Imagine yourself in a war-torn 19th century Europe. Borders are closed, communication lines cut, armies block every road. Yet somehow, as if by magic, vital information and gold flow freely across the continent. Not through government channels, but through the invisible network of a single family. The Rothschilds had something more valuable than mere wealth: information. While kings awaited news for weeks, the Rothschilds knew battle outcomes within hours. This information asymmetry became the foundation of power that made them richer than monarchs. Their network operated like a shadow circulatory system across war-ravaged Europe. Carrier pigeons soared above battlefields. Couriers slipped through enemy lines, all delivering financial intelligence before anyone else could act. 2. The origins of information mastery. What if I told you that before telegraphs and telephones, one family created an information network that outpaced governments? In an age when news traveled at the speed of horse and ship, the Rothschilds engineered a system that gave them a decisive edge in the high-stakes world of European finance. The story begins in 1744 in the cramped confines of Frankfurt's Judengasse, the Jewish ghetto where Meyer Amschel Rothschild was born. The restrictions placed on Jewish families were severe and calculated. Barred from owning land or practicing most professions, they existed in a parallel economy with limited options. Initially following family tradition by entering the textile trade, Meyer quickly recognized its limitations. The profit margins were thin, the competition fierce, and advancement nearly impossible. But where others saw only constraints, Meyer perceived opportunity. He pivoted to trading gold coins and antiques, a seemingly small shift that revealed his remarkable instinct for identifying untapped markets. When a Habsburg royal collection became available through a nobleman fallen on hard times, Meyer secured the coins at a fraction of their value and doubled his investment within months. This early career change demonstrated a pattern of thinking that would define the Rothschild approach to business, always seeking higher returns by moving into spaces others overlooked. So he's selling old coins. Big deal, you might think. But it wasn't the specific business that mattered, it was the mindset. While his contemporaries accepted their prescribed economic roles, Meyer was mentally breaking down barriers long before his family would physically transcend them. The true genius of Meyer Amschel Rothschild was his vision for something grander than personal success. He was architecting a dynasty. His masterstroke? Dispatching his 5 sons to Europe's financial capitals, Frankfurt as the base with outposts in Vienna, Naples, Paris, and London. This was a revolutionary reorganization of financial power. Think of it as a private financial spiderweb, each son positioned at a strategic point, collectively sensing market vibrations across the continent. While competitors operated as isolated entities, the Rothschilds functioned as a single organism spanning national boundaries. The initial communication between these branches was straightforward, couriers carrying news and instructions between family members. But as their operations grew, so did the sophistication of their intelligence apparatus. They recruited trusted agents, developed relationships with merchants whose trade routes doubled as information channels, and cultivated connections with influential figures providing access to privileged information. Government dispatches crawled along rutted roads, newspapers relied on second-hand accounts often weeks old, and the average citizen received critical financial news long after it could be profitably acted upon. The Rothschilds operated on an entirely different timeline. Their communications used complex coded language, and their carrier pigeons could deliver critical information across hundreds of miles in a single day when a human courier might take a week. In the volatile world of 19th century European finance, advanced knowledge was everything. A price change in Paris created opportunity in London, but only if you knew about it before your competitors. The true test of this system came during the Napoleonic Wars. While armies clashed on battlefields, the Rothschilds waged a campaign fought with information rather than artillery. Their network bypassed military blockades and censors, providing a clear picture of events when governments themselves were often in the dark. This information advantage translated directly into financial opportunities. While others reacted to yesterday's news, the Rothschilds positioned themselves based on real-time events. These same information principles would later enable them to dominate bond markets across Europe and establish a banking dynasty that would shape international finance for centuries to come. 3. Nathan's Waterloo, the ultimate financial gambit. Imagine having intelligence so valuable you could engineer a financial coup on Europe's largest stock exchange in a single day. When the smoke cleared at Waterloo in June 1815, Nathan Rothschild would transform his family's substantial wealth into dynastic power through what many consider the most audacious market manipulation in history. While Wellington and Napoleon's armies determined Europe's political future on the battlefield, Nathan was preparing to reshape its financial landscape forever. This financial mastermind began with £20,000 to establish the London branch of the family business. Initially focusing on textiles, he created an integrated approach combining raw materials, dyeing, and manufacturing. This strategy allowed him to undercut competitors while maintaining higher margins, foreshadowing the strategic brilliance that would later revolutionize European finance. The Napoleonic Wars created opportunities for those with courage and capital. As governments struggled with collapsed revenue sources, Nathan recognized potential amid chaos. His willingness to move money across battle lines, utilizing the family's pan-European network, made the Rothschilds essential to financially desperate regimes. By 1815, the family had become vital to Britain's war effort, arranging £9.8 million in subsidy loans to continental allies through Nathan's London Bank. This positioned the Rothschilds as unofficial financial architects of Allied victory, funding Wellington's campaigns through Portugal and Spain. When these forces finally confronted Napoleon at Waterloo, the stakes for the Rothschilds extended far beyond mere profit. On June 18, 1815, Europe stood at a precipice. Armies clashed on Belgian soil while Nathan positioned agents to relay the outcome before official channels. The information network the Rothschilds constructed would soon serve as the foundation for a breathtaking financial gambit. When Wellington's victory reached Nathan through private channels, he executed a strategy as precarious as a tightrope walker crossing Niagara Falls. At the London Stock Exchange on June 19th, he deliberately stationed himself near his usual pillar, his face a mask of grim concern. He began selling British government bonds aggressively. Other traders watched. They hesitated. Then, seeing the normally calculating Rothschild apparently dumping securities in panic, they followed. Bonds plummeted. Prices collapsed. Panic spread like wildfire. Meanwhile, Nathan's agents quietly began purchasing those same bonds at sharply discounted prices. His true insight wasn't Wellington's victory. Many considered this likely, but that peace would transform government borrowing patterns. War expenditures would end. Demand for capital would decrease. Existing bonds would rise in value. The psychological dimension of Nathan's strategy revealed his mastery of market behavior. His physical presence, positioning, and carefully calibrated expressions served as financial theater. London's financial elite didn't merely respect Rothschild, they studied his every move for signals. He transformed their attention into a weapon against them. His calculation proved magnificent. After acquiring substantial holdings at panic prices, Nathan held them as the post-war economy stabilized. When he finally sold in 1817, the bonds had appreciated 40%, generating what would today be billions in profit from a single, perfectly executed strategy. This represented the birth of modern financial market manipulation. The Waterloo maneuver epitomized the Rothschild approach, combining privileged information, strategic patience, psychological manipulation, and continental reach. While competitors might possess some of these advantages, none could integrate all elements into such a coherent and devastating strategy. Nathan's early lessons in business integration had evolved into an unprecedented understanding of how markets could be influenced, manipulated, and ultimately conquered. 4. Currency speculation, the hidden engine of wealth. Behind the spectacular market plays that captured history's attention lay the true engine of Rothschild wealth. A currency speculation system so sophisticated it transformed the chaos of war from a liability into their greatest asset. While other financiers saw conflict as a threat to stability, The Rothschilds recognized it as an unprecedented opportunity for those with the right capabilities and nerve. 19th century Europe operated as a financial patchwork quilt, with dozens of different currencies circulating across the continent. Prussian thalers, French francs, British pounds, Austrian florins, each fluctuated in value daily, creating a dizzying landscape. Without standardized exchange rates or central authorities, determining fair value became more art than science, generating inefficiencies that savvy operators could exploit. War transformed these natural market gaps into extraordinary opportunities. When nations battled, their currencies became weapons. Governments funding military campaigns often printed more money or debased coinage, causing rapid devaluation. Meanwhile, gold remained relatively stable regardless of battlefield outcomes. This widening gap between paper promises and physical gold created volatility that represented the perfect hunting ground for the Rothschilds. The family excelled by physically moving gold when nobody else could. During times when official channels were disrupted, their network of agents maintained continuous flow of precious metals across contested boundaries. They transported gold through territories where armies fought pitched battles, reaching markets cut off from the global financial system. This capability allowed them to charge premiums as high as 8% when governments needed to move money to pay troops or purchase supplies, an astronomical rate reflecting the absence of alternatives. During the Napoleonic Wars, they financed the British by transporting gold directly to Wellington's armies behind enemy lines. The brilliance of their system emerged when all 5 houses operated like a grand orchestra, each branch playing its precise part in perfect harmony. Consider a typical transaction. London might identify British pounds trading at a discount in Paris due to battle rumors. Simultaneously, the Paris house would notice francs undervalued in Vienna. Through coordinated action, they executed a complex sequence, buying undervalued pounds in Paris with francs, selling those pounds in Vienna for florins, converting florins to undervalued francs in Naples, completing the circle with each movement generating profit. This financial choreography required perfect synchronization through their proprietary communication network. A message from Nathan in London would trigger James in Paris to liquidate franc positions, while Salomon in Vienna accumulated florins. While competitors might capitalize on a single exchange rate discrepancy, the Rothschilds exploited multiple inefficiencies simultaneously, compounding their profits. Their system inverted traditional wartime finance risk. When political instability meant bankruptcy for ordinary merchants, for the Rothschilds, each crisis created predictable currency movements they could exploit. When nations closed borders during conflicts, currency values diverged dramatically between markets, widening profit margins. Greater chaos meant greater advantage. They monitored both predictable patterns, like seasonal government payments to troops, and sudden shocks from unexpected battles. Each created distinctive currency movements the family had modeled in advance. With 5 houses constantly feeding information into their shared network, they responded to developments faster than any competitor or government. The Rothschilds created a self-reinforcing cycle. Their information network identified currency disparities quickly, their logistics moved gold where others couldn't, and their coordinated actions allowed them to profit before markets naturally corrected. This financial arbitrage at continental scale transformed temporary wartime disruptions into a perpetual wealth generation machine that outpaced even their most legendary market coups. 5. Unmatched advantages. Why competitors failed. Their financial empire seemed virtually impregnable. While the Rothschilds' continental arbitrage system created unprecedented wealth, beneath the surface lay a unique combination of advantages that competitors spent decades trying to replicate, yet consistently failed to match. What made the Rothschilds impossible to dethrone, even when rivals possessed millions in capital and connections at the highest levels of society? Consider Junius Morgan, who led George Peabody and Company, one of the Rothschilds' most formidable competitors. Despite successfully raising over £10 million for the French army during the Franco-Prussian War, Morgan's firm never achieved the sustained dominance that characterized the Rothschild banking dynasty. His capabilities and ambition proved insufficient against the Rothschilds' integrated system of advantages. The first pillar of the Rothschilds' unassailable advantage was their family structure, a system competitors simply couldn't duplicate. Mayer Amschel Rothschild's strategic placement of his 5 sons created a unified financial entity bound by blood. This family network functioned like a well-oiled machine, with each component working in perfect harmony. The result was a decision-making apparatus that could move with unprecedented speed and coordination when opportunities arose. Strategic marriages reinforced this structure, keeping wealth and business interests aligned across generations. These family bonds ensured that sensitive financial information remained protected from outside scrutiny. When other banking houses attempted to expand, they inevitably diluted trust by bringing in non-family members who lacked the same absolute loyalty to the firm. Political neutrality formed the second pillar of their advantage. The Rothschilds maintained a remarkable ability to operate across political divides, while competitors tied themselves to specific national interests. This neutrality was deeply practical. The willingness to finance both sides of conflicts ensured their continued profitability, regardless of outcomes. Where other bankers hesitated to provide financial support to countries at war with their own nations, the Rothschilds recognized that money transcended borders and ideologies. The family's Jewish identity transformed a potential disadvantage into a strategic asset. In an era of rampant anti-Semitism, the Rothschilds were excluded from many elite institutions. This exclusion freed them from the national allegiances that constrained their competitors. Without patriotic sentiment clouding their judgment, they made decisions based purely on business considerations. This transnational perspective allowed them to move capital across borders with remarkable fluidity, particularly crucial during periods of political instability. While competitors often found themselves trapped within national financial systems, the Rothschilds could shift assets to wherever they would yield the greatest returns. The genius of the Rothschild advantage was how these components formed an integrated system. A rival might develop a decent information network, but without the family trust structure, they couldn't act on that information with the same speed. Another competitor might build a sizable capital base, but without the political flexibility to deploy it across warring nations, their opportunities remained limited. This integrated system created a financial fortress that proved remarkably resilient across multiple generations and financial crises. Individual competitors might challenge aspects of their business or succeed in specific markets, but none could match the comprehensive advantages that made the Rothschilds the undisputed masters of European finance for decades. The lesson here is about creating systems where each component reinforces and amplifies the others. The Rothschilds had better mechanisms for using information, a structure that transformed family connections into operational advantages, and a worldview that made political flexibility a natural extension of their business philosophy. 6. The double-edged sword, ethics and legacy. The extraordinary system that built the Rothschilds' unparalleled fortune created an unexpected vulnerability, a template for both legitimate criticism and dangerous conspiracy theories that would shadow them for centuries. What happens when the same strategies that generate history's greatest fortune simultaneously plant the seeds for its most persistent controversies? As the 19th century progressed, ethical questions emerged about profiting from human suffering. The Rothschilds' mastery of extracting wealth from conflict raised a profound moral dilemma. Their business acumen enabled them to finance both sides of wars while remaining insulated from the devastating human costs. This contradiction became starkly apparent during the 1848 revolutions sweeping across Europe, when a crowd gathered outside the Rothschild Bank in Frankfurt, with one protestor's sign reading, "The people starve while Rothschild profits." This moment crystallized growing public sentiment that their wealth extraction methods came at too high a social cost. This resentment intensified during industrialization as Europe's wealth gap widened dramatically. The Rothschilds' palatial estates and unprecedented influence stood in stark contrast to the grinding poverty experienced by industrial workers. In London's East End, Merely blocks from N.M. Rothschild and Sons offices, families struggled in tenements while the family displayed art collections worth more than entire working-class neighborhoods. Their success made them natural lightning rods for criticism in an era increasingly concerned with economic inequality. The family's strategic brilliance, their international network, political flexibility, and information superiority directly fueled the anti-Semitic conspiracy theories that would plague their legacy. When the Daily Telegraph described the Rothschilds as a byword for wealth, power, and discretion, it captured precisely how their necessary operational secrecy created a dangerous vacuum filled by speculation. This discretion, initially adopted as a business advantage and protection against anti-Semitism, paradoxically provided fertile ground for fabrications about world domination and war profiteering. Historian Niall Ferguson emphasizes that these conspiracy theories weaponized the family's genuine accomplishments, transforming their business innovations into something sinister precisely because their methods were sophisticated enough to be mysterious to the average person. The Rothschilds responded through extensive philanthropy, funding public museums and national buildings, including the Knesset Building and Supreme Court of Israel. They established the Yad Hanadiv Philanthropy Foundation in 1958, though maintained their characteristic discretion about these contributions. As warfare evolved through the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the family pivoted from crisis profiteering toward more diverse investments. They backed railway systems worldwide and financed massive infrastructure projects like the Suez Canal. This marked an evolution from exploiting market inefficiencies to helping build stable financial systems. The family that once thrived on market volatility increasingly worked to reduce it. The 20th century brought further challenges. Modern financial regulations introduced transparency requirements, while technologies like the telegraph and telephone democratized information access. National banking systems and international regulations limited opportunities for the arbitrage that had built their fortune. Despite these challenges, the Rothschilds' influence remains profound. Their international high finance work during industrialization established templates still visible today. Their sophisticated communication networks foreshadowed modern high-frequency trading systems. Their government financing methods continue in contemporary sovereign debt markets. Their wartime crisis management techniques became standard in modern central banking, demonstrating both the necessity and methodology for international financial cooperation during crises, a lesson repeatedly relearned during financial upheavals of the 20th and 21st centuries. 7. Conclusion. As we've seen, the Rothschilds weren't merely wealthy bankers, they were architects of modern finance. Their innovative information networks revolutionized how financial power operates. While competitors relied on public channels, the Rothschilds' private courier system gave them market advantages that transformed global economics. Their strategic investments literally reshaped continents. They provided nearly $450 million in loans to European governments, funded Brazil's independence, established Rio Tinto mining, and financed Cecil Rhodes's ventures. This financial genius existed alongside ethical complexity. Profit during conflict raises uncomfortable questions. But as the family grew in power, so did the resentment of those who felt left behind. Thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. If these insights resonated with you, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who could benefit from this message. Your support helps us continue creating content that empowers and inspires. What do you think about the information asymmetry that became the foundation of power of Rothschilds that made them richer than monarchs? I would absolutely love to hear about your thoughts. Drop a comment below. I read every comment, and it helps me create better content for you.